I was quoting someone else. I'm sorry. Oh, is he out? Is he walking out? Okay, time to go. Let's go.
Okay, thank you very much. This is Big Duff. Appreciate you being here. Late last night and early today, at my direction, the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital.
I'm sorry. I'm going to raise the volume on my side. That's not me having it low. That's just them. That's the White House. That's Mar-a-Lago's audio technician. So I'm gonna pause it real quick. I will say he both sounds and looks like shit. He's starting to sound like RFK Jr., which is not what you want. He doesn't even smoke, I don't think. He should start.
Direction, the United States
Still too low.
Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea, was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II.
What?
It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas to bring outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice.
Okay, like I mean, this is all cap though. I definitely don't agree with what we did, and I also describe it as like an unnecessary spectacle of military might. But I think he's really overselling it. We saw the videos from what occurred. We definitely saw the videos from what occurred, and nothing like he's describing. I think we can agree occurred.
This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence
I keep trying to raise the volume,
in
but he speaks
American
lower
history.
each time.
And if you think about it, we've done some other good ones like the
Oh my God, there's some
attack
other
on
good ones.
Soleimani.
This is terrible. You know why he's like this? It's because the military-industrial complex, like his handler from like Lockheed Martin, made him stay up all night to pretend like he had something to say about this strike, and so he's tired now. He's tired because our president is old. He's an old man whose like brain doesn't work.
In American history.
He's confused.
And
Can
if
we
you
just
think
can we just
about
hear
it,
from
some
Palantir or
other good
like
ones
Halliburton
like the
spokespeople? At least they can get the
attack
information
on
out.
Soleimani.
Oh, Soleimani, our other war crime.
And if you think about it, we've done some other good ones like the
Some other
attack
good
on
ones.
Soleimani, the attack on al-Baghdadi, and the obliteration and decimation of the Iran nuclear sites just
His hair's looking
recently
thin.
in an operation known as Midnight Hammer. All perfectly executed and done. No nation in the world could achieve what America achieved yesterday, or frankly, in just a short period of time.
But what did we achieve? We just kidnapped Maduro. This is the part I'm waiting for. I'm gonna raise the volume some more. I swear, I've almost tripled the volume. He is really not sounding good. But I'm gonna raise it even more. But what was achieved? All we did was abduct Maduro. What does that like? Even if Maduro was the head of a drug trafficking cartel, that still wouldn't stop the cartel from trafficking the drugs. Someone else would just fill the void.
All Venezuelan military capacities were rendered powerless as the men and women of our military, working with U.S. law enforcement, successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night.
Yeah,
It
like
was
thieves.
dark. The lights of Caracas were largely turned off
It was nighttime.
due to a certain expertise that we
Oh,
have.
you do like an EMP, or did it
was
just like do like a
dark.
blackout?
And it was deadly.
Okay.
But captured along with his wife, Celia Flores,
Whole
both
government.
of whom now face American justice.
Okay.
Maduro and Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York. It's Jay Clayton, for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens. I want to thank the men and women of our military who achieved such an extraordinary success overnight with breathtaking speed, power, precision, and competence. You rarely see anything like it. You've seen some raids in this country that didn't go so well.
Yeah, like that one you did in
if you look
North
back
Korea.
to Afghanistan, or if you look back to the Jimmy Carter days, they were different days.
Damn, he's about to pass the fuck out, huh? He's nodding right off. Did he take some of Elon's ketamine before this speech? No, for sure. For sure they made him stay up because you kind of just have to do that because he's the literal president. Like, whatever handler he has at Halliburton or Exxon or Lockheed Martin or Alfred Hughes or Boeing, who like decided that this raid had to go down last night, they all were like, you got to stay up, Donald. You got to stay up. We know you want to go to bed. We know you want to go to bed, but you got to stay up to be in the situation room in case there's a situation, because legally, in order for that situation to be handled, we have to tell you what to say to the generals, because we can't just tell them, because that's just the way the government actually functions. So like, I just wish that when it comes to stuff like this, we could just hear directly from the spokesperson from Alfred Hughes or whatever. We could hear directly from like the Boeing guy, because at least we would understand like what's happening a little better.
Country again, like
cut through all of the noise.
These highly trained warriors operating in collaboration with U.S. law enforcement caught them in a very ready position. They were waiting for us. They knew we had many ships out in the sea.
But so what?
Just sort of waiting. They knew we were coming. So they were in a ready, what's called a ready position. But they were completely
So you spent like all this money and violated all of these laws to capture 2 drug dealers? Is that the narrative now?
If you would have seen what I saw last night, you would.
Yeah, Marco Rubio doesn't seem happy. So like that kind of tells me that something is not going the way that we want. Like, or do you think that Marco Rubio is like, so look at Marco Rubio. Forget whatever the fuck Trump is saying about this nonsense for a moment. Like,
not a single American
does Marco Rubio look like
killed,
mission was accomplished, or do you think that he looks kind of like, things didn't really go like we wanted? Yeah, Michael, he might just be like trying to hide his excitement because he's all like beaked up. But to me, he looks visibly unhappy.
Service member was,
but you can't tell because Marco Rubio is like a psycho.
The United States military is the strongest.
But I mean, what did happen? We abducted Maduro.
Far, with capabilities and skills our enemies can.
That's also how I would look if I had to listen to Trump speak, though.
Anywhere in the world.
Everyone's tired.
There's no equipment like what we have, and you see that. Even if you just look at the boats, you know, we've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by sea. 90%. Each boat kills on average 25,000 people. We knocked out 97%. And those drugs mostly come from a place called Venezuela. We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious.
Okay, so this is him announcing that we're running the country. So like, are we? But not actually though. We're not running the country.
Having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country.
How?
Until such time as we can.
Are we going to invade?
Safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about. We want peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela. And that includes many from Venezuela that are now living in the United States and want to go back to their country. It's their homeland. We can't take a chance that somebody else takes over Venezuela that doesn't have the good of the Venezuelan people in mind. We've had decades of that. We're not going to let that happen. We're there now, and what people don't understand, but they understand as I say this, we're there now, but we're going to stay until such time as the proper transition can take place. So we're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it essentially until.
So
such
we're
time
occupying. We're occupying
proper
Venezuela.
Transition can take place.
That's
As
insane.
everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust.
Wow,
for a
going right
long
into the
period of
oil.
time.
Crazy, crazy.
They were pumping
This
almost
is
nothing
sick.
by comparison to what they could have been pumping. and
They're not
what could have
exploiting their
taken
natural
place.
resources to our liking.
We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave if we needed to do so. We actually assumed that a second wave would be necessary, but now it's probably not. The first wave, if you'd like to call it that, the first attack was so successful, we probably don't have to do a second, but we're prepared to do a second wave, a much bigger wave, actually.
So unless something is going on literally right now where like we have taken over the government like physically with military strength, that is, I would think they would show it. This seems to just be like a threat, obviously, which is we're telling the Venezuelan government that they need to step down. Like we're telling the Venezuelan government that they need to step down and allow America to be in charge without any more bloodshed, or else we will invade and do more bloodshed, is like the long and short of this, right?
It was pinpoint, but we have a much bigger wave that probably won't have to do. This partnership of Venezuela with the United States of America, a country that everybody wants to be involved with because of what we were able to do and accomplish, will make the people of Venezuela rich, independent, and safe. And it will also make the many, many people from Venezuela that are living in the United States extremely happy. They suffered. They suffered. So much was taken from them. They're not going to suffer anymore. The illegitimate dictator Maduro was
disgusting.
the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States. As alleged in the indictment, he personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solas,
The Sun
which
Bros.
flooded our nation with lethal
Let me just pull up.
poison.
I'm just going to put up the
responsible for
Telesur
deaths
live
of
stream because they're
countless
reporting
Americans,
live, I think,
many,
still from the
many
ground in
Americans,
Venezuela
hundreds of
to see if anything has
thousands of
changed.
People with the Venezuelan people in the face
Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil. Right now, they're on a ship they'll be heading to ultimately.
So this is
New
the
York,
foreign minister of
and then
Venezuela.
a decision will be made, I assume, between New
So
York
they're
and
still just like saying things out of the
Miami or
official
Florida.
government.
But we have people where the overwhelming evidence of their crimes will be presented in a court of law. And I've seen it. I've seen what we have. It's both horrible and breathtaking that something like this could have been allowed
Yeah,
to take place.
yeah, it
For
certainly
many
is.
years after his term as president of Venezuela expired, Maduro
Venezuela.
remained in power and waged a ceaseless campaign of violence, terror, and subversion against the United States of America, threatening not only our people, but the stability of the entire region. And you all saw it. In addition to trafficking gigantic amounts of illegal drugs that inflicted untold
They need to give
suffering
Trump some of
and
those
human
illegal drugs to get his
destruction all over
energy
the
up. This shit is
country, all over,
low
in
energy.
particular the
You
United
just kidnapped the
States.
sovereign leader.
Maduro sent savage and murderous gangs, including the bloodthirsty prison gang Tren de Aragua, to terrorize American communities nationwide.
Why didn't he
and
send
did
people from his
indeed.
own gang?
They
Is
were
he
in Colorado. They
in the
took
Soul
over
Bros or is he in
apartment
Tren de Aragua?
complexes. They cut the fingers off people if they call police. They were brutal, but they're not so brutal now.
There are very few cartel members who have had more indictments against them than Donald Trump has. You have to acknowledge that, though, for sure. Like, there are very few criminals overall who we would consider to be bad, like terrible people, who have had more crimes alleged against him than Donald Trump himself.
just have
But
to
that's just a completely unrelated
congratulate our
point.
military, Pete, and everybody, and our National Guard.
Homie was
It's
up
a
on
job
like
that
all
they've
the
done,
charges.
whether it's in
He's
Washington,
an
D.C., where
unregistered
we have
sex
a totally
offender,
safe
allegedly.
city, where it was one of the most unsafe
many times allegedly.
cities anywhere in the world, frankly. And now we have no crime in Washington, D.C. We haven't had.
Oh, now he's
killing.
going
We
off
had
on
the
his like normal
terrorist
start riff.
attack a few
Someone
weeks
said
ago.
that the vice president of Venezuela is
little bit of a
in
different kind of
Russia right now.
a threat, but we haven't had a killing in a long period of time, 6-7 months. We used to have two, on average, two a week.
I will say, I still don't think that Marco Rubio looks like all of this stuff is good, right? And maybe that's me just coping. I'm willing to, imagine that I'm just coping, but what he's describing is not reflected. Like, I'm saying, like, what he's describing is just not being reflected by the reporting that we're getting from Venezuela right now, from Telesur, which if the
Nicolas
Venezuelan
Maduro
government
and
had
his
stepped
wife
down,
for the damages caused by the United States.
Oh, sorry.
These are some of the
It's super loud now because of how loud it had to be for Trump, but it's just not being reflected. So my impression of what's occurring is that Trump is threatening the Venezuelan people. He's threatening the current government of Venezuela, saying that, like, if you do not turn over the keys to power to us in the form of our puppet regime, we will just like launch another wave of strikes. It's just pure imperialism at this point, because Maduro's gone, I suppose, right? According to them, he's in New York being tried. And so, like, it's just so, I mean, he said it too with the oil companies. He's being very naked about this, but like, yeah, like, it doesn't seem like they're actually, they have anything established on the ground yet that would be able to take over in a seemingly legitimate way. So it just has to be like this.
In Washington, our capital, we don't have that anymore. The restaurants are opening. Everyone's happy. They're walking their daughters. They're walking their children, their wives.
At the
They
Sleepy
walk
Dawn.
Restaurants are opening all over Washington, D.C. So I want to thank the National Guard. I want to thank our military. And I want to thank law enforcement. Been amazing. And they should do it with more cities. We're doing it, as you know, and we're doing it in Memphis, Tennessee right now, and crime is down. We've just sort of started a few weeks ago, but crime is down now 77%. And the governor of Louisiana called, great person, and he wanted us to help him, as you know, in a certain very nice part of Louisiana, and we have done that. It was a rough section, and we have crime down. I understand it's down to almost nothing already after 2.5 weeks.
Again, I know this is not really maybe the most intellectually honest thing, but oh damn, from this homie looks busted from this angle. But we're gonna skip ahead. He's so boring. He's so out of it.
And they came from mental institutions.
Oh, he's doing the asylum thing. He's doing the asylum thing, guys. Hold on, go back. Let's hear
As
it.
I've said many times, the Maduro regime emptied out their prisons, sent their worst and most violent monsters into the United States to steal American lives. And they came from mental institutions and insane asylums. They came from prisons and jails. The reason I say both, they sound similar. Actually, prisons, a little bit more hostile, a little bit tougher. A mental institution isn't as tough as an insane asylum, but we got them both. They sent from their mental institutions. They sent from their jails, prisons. They were drug dealers. They were drug kingpins. They sent everybody bad into the United States.
They even sent me.
No longer. And we have now a border where nobody gets through. In addition, Venezuela unilaterally seized and sold American oil, American assets, and American platforms.
He's referring to their own oil. He's referring to their own resources. Occupation is crazy. That's like a crazy outcome of this. I was more under the impression that they had organized things where, like, again, a seemingly peaceful transition of power to, like, that lady who got the Nobel Peace Prize. Two Peace Prize winners coming together to bring Venezuela into a new century or whatever, a Chinese century. It seems like they just didn't have the juice inside Venezuela. For all talk of the opposition and all of these things, people weren't really feeling that, and so that we just have to occupy the country.
Costing us billions and billions of dollars. They did this a while ago, but we never had a president that did anything
Venezuela
about it. They took all
says
of our
failure
property.
fiend.
It was our property. We built it. And we never had a president that decided to do anything about it. Instead, they fought wars that were 10,000 miles away. We built Venezuela oil industry with American talent, drive, and skill, and the socialist regime stole it from us during those previous administrations, and they stole it through force. This constituted one of the largest thefts of American property in the history of our country. Considered the largest theft of property in the history of our country. Massive oil infrastructure was taken like we were babies, and we didn't do anything about it.
He sounds terrible. Let's skip ahead a little bit, because this obviously all lies and bullshit, but let's skip ahead.
Not anymore. All the way back, it dated to the Monroe Doctrines.
Oh, here it is.
And the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal.
He doesn't know what the
We've
Monroe Doctrine is.
superseded it by a lot.
He does not, like, we got to back up, because I want to hear like what Trump has to say about the Monroe Doctrine, because he has no idea what the Monroe Doctrine is. He did not pay attention in high school history class.
American foreign policy, potentially in league with the cartels operating along our border. All of these actions were in gross violation of the core principles of American foreign policy, dating back more than 2 centuries. And not anymore. All the way back, it dated to the Monroe Doctrines.
The Monroe Doctrines. Someone should ask him who the Monroe Doctrine is named after.
And the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal.
So the moron doctrine is more like it. Someone just told him to say this morning. There's no way. It's what I meant before when I said, like, Trump might have his own things that he thinks he's doing this to serve. I'm sure he is getting his beak wet in some way. Maybe there's going to be a Venezuela coin. Maybe he was like betting on Polymarket and made a tidy sum doing this the way he did it. Who can say, right? But the people who really control the puppet strings, they did it for the reasons that he also is laying out quite nakedly. The oil to establish a new, more defined sphere of influence in the Western Hemisphere now that America is being like dog walked all around the world by Chinese soft power, because we can't maintain the soft power anymore. It's not working. It's it's what it is. And so we have to move towards things like this. Yeah, de-dollarization is accelerating. BRICS is happening, which will also be part of like the specter for why we have to do stuff like this. I'm sure Venezuelan oil no longer being in the hands of Venezuela doesn't help organization or like a loose coalition like BRICS in any way either. Let's see. Lonnie Lynn, thank you for the 9566. Thank you for the $5 super chat. What should I say to normies in my life who just don't care and think America inherently has the right to violate other countries? It's hard to prescribe like a broad solution to that kind of belief, because the best way to deal with it is going to depend on a case-by-case basis. You know the people in your life better than any other person. Better than I do, I should say. And so it really depends. Like, you might want to go from the moral argument route. This is bad. It violates, it violates nation sovereignty. It kills people. You might want to go from the legal right. It violates like international law. It violates domestic law. You might want to go from like the self-interest route. It makes the world a more dangerous place. So it really just depends on the kind of person you're talking about. So I would always say that when it comes to convincing people of things or like de-radicalizing people, 'cause that's really what this is. Americans won't like to hear it, but Americans are at the basic level radicalized in certain ways that make them very dangerous. That make them very antisocial, make them very like hyper individualistic in ways that it makes it very easy for them to justify violence against other Americans or around the world. They just treat that as normal, and like it's not like a deep issue, but of course it is. And so like waking people up out of that is a act of de-radicalization. You can call it unlearning or de-learning or whatever like the fancy term is, but like in reality it's de-radicalizing people, because like the American supremacist position is very radical. It's very anti-human. It's very anti-earth. It's very like disgusting. And so it's never going to be as simple as presenting people with a really good argument. That's what people who sell really good arguments want you to believe. And maybe for like a small subset of Americans, it will work. Usually that will have to overlap with the material conditions in their life being such where like they're in a position where it can work. And at least them being mildly amenable to it versus like most Americans who have been fed such a steady diet of like neoconservative, neoliberal propaganda, it would be hard to wake them up out of anything like that. But like, since it's de-radicalization, it just takes like a more personal touch. For most people who are going to be like falling into that like category, you're going to have to engage them from a standpoint of like, we have a personal relationship. And so I know what makes you tick and I know what works on you. And worst case scenario, I can then leverage our personal relationship, in order to get you to change it as like a last resort. Because like de-radicalization is less like convincing people of like a basic fact, like, or teaching somebody, and a lot more like getting people to abandon an addiction. And a lot of Americans are addicted. To the radical politics of neoliberalism. They're addicted to the radical politics of neoconservatism. They don't think they're addicted to it because it's hegemonic. They think of it as natural. It's the only way things can be. But, that's just part of the addiction. So, I would say that when it comes to convincing people around you, you have to really, spend a lot of time thinking about the kinds of what makes them tick. Gates9, thank you for the $1.99 super chat. Listen to / share Salvador Allende's last speech. That could work too. Failure Fiend, thank you for resubscribing on YouTube. 7 months. Love to see it. Which part of Trump is the beak? Eesh. Ugh. All right.
But we've superseded it by a lot. By a real lot. They now call it the Monroe document. I don't know.
Oh,
Monroe Doctrine.
Oh, that's terrible.
Sort of forgot about it. It was very important.
That was definitely a rift. Yeah, like that's how you know. That is how you know he just heard about this thing. I haven't heard anyone call it the Don Roe document. Have you guys heard that in the streets? The Don Roe document. This guy's a roast mastered. He is not.
Monroe Doctrine. We sort of forgot about it. It was very important, but we forgot about it. We don't forget about it anymore.
We didn't forget about it. We expanded our sphere of influence to be the entire world, but we're losing.
Dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned.
James Don Roe. Named after President James Don Roe.
Concluding, for decades, other administrations have neglected or even contributed to these growing security threats in the Western Hemisphere. Under the Trump administration, we are reasserting American power in a very powerful way in our home region. And our home region is very different than it was just a short while ago. The future will be, and we did this in my first term. We had great dominance in my first term. And
this is so fucking
we have,
boring.
Far greater dominance right now. Everyone's coming back to us. The future will be determined by the ability to protect commerce and territory and resources that are core to national security. These are core to our national security. Just like tariffs are.
Just like these terrible tariffs are core to national security.
Stronger than ever before. But these are the iron laws that have always determined global power. And we're going to keep it that way. We will secure our borders. We'll stop.
Honestly, because he doesn't know anything about the Monroe Doctrine or like American foreign policy positions for the past like 30, 40 years. He's not really, and most Americans aren't really knowledgeable to any degree about that kind of stuff or why it works the way it is, like what the neoconservative agenda is. He doesn't realize that saying all of this stuff is an admission of defeat. Like having to retreat to the Monroe Doctrine is because we can't maintain total global control over the world anymore. So all we can do is say that like, no, we're going to make sure that the Western Hemisphere knows that it will always be under our thumb. It's like the retreat position for American empire, like how the British, how the UK keep all those fucking islands. And I shouldn't be demeaning to those islands, but you know what I mean. Like this is a retreat position for an empire in decline. It's not something that they're trying to act like it's saber. I mean, it is saber rattling, but only as they retreat to their strongholds.
Terrorists, we will crash the cartels, and we will defend our citizens against all threats, foreign and domestic. Other presidents may have lacked the courage or whatever.
Or whatever.
America. But I will never allow terrorists and criminals to operate with impunity against the United States.
He made that whole wall of presidents, and he definitely doesn't know who James Monroe is.
This extremely successful operation should serve as warning to anyone who would threaten American sovereignty or endanger American lives.
Except for
Very
him.
importantly, the embargo on all Venezuelan oil remains in full effect. The American Armada remains poised in position, and the United States retains all military options until United States demands have been fully met and fully satisfied. All political and military figures in Venezuela should understand what happened to Maduro can happen to them, and it will happen to them if they aren't just, fair, even to their people. The dictator and terrorist, Maduro, is finally gone in Venezuela. People are free. They're free again. It's been a long
Except
time
for the
them.
U.S. occupation that we have to maintain because there isn't enough popular support for the opposition party, despite everything you're hearing apparently on U.S. media. There's not enough popular support to ensure that they can actually be in power.
But they're free. America is a safer nation. This morning, it's a prouder nation this morning because it didn't allow this horrible person and this country that was doing very bad things to us. It didn't allow it to happen. And the Western Hemisphere is right now a much safer place to be. So I want to thank everybody.
The Western
for being
Hemisphere of
here.
his brain, however, is a much
I want to thank General Raisin Kane. He's fantastic.
less effective
Man,
place
I've
to
worked
be.
with a lot of generals. I worked with some I didn't like. I worked with some I didn't respect. I worked with some that just weren't good. But this guy is fantastic. I watched last night.
Pete Hegseth is the only one who's rested because he was passed out drunk and they didn't tell him it was going down because they didn't want to reveal it to everyone else.
One of the most precise attacks on sovereignty. I mean, it was an attack for justice. And I'm very proud of him, and I'm very proud of our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, who I'm going to ask to say a few words.
Oh,
Thank
God.
you very much.
Oh.
Mr. President, can you explain how the U.S. will run Venezuela?
Yeah,
Thank you,
great
Mr.
question.
President. Finally, a commander-in-chief the world respects
Look at this
and the
asshole.
American people deserve. And as the president said, words can barely capture the bravery and the power and the precision of this historic operation. A massive joint military and law enforcement raid flawlessly executed by the greatest.
I don't care about this. I want the answer to that question. How is the U.S. going to
American warriors are second to
govern
none.
Venezuela?
The best in the world and the best of our country. What all of us witnessed last night was sheer guts and grit, gallantry, and glory of the American
God.
warrior.
He spent up.
Simply humbled.
He spent all night
by
thinking of
such
those
man,
of those
such
words.
man. And I tip my hat to our chairman, Dan Raisin Kane, and all those Americans.
I love having generals named after fast food restaurants. It just seems like a natural escalation for the American project.
Stood watch last night. Our warriors.
Don't care.
In Caracas, Venezuela, to
Don't
bring
care.
patient and professional mission. This was an audacious operation, in a place to layer effects for a single purpose, to get an.
They had to lower the standards to make Raisin Kane whatever position he is. Remember that, because he's not a 3-star general or whatever. So they had to lower the standards to allow for him to hold a higher position in the military than otherwise he would have.
Interdiction force into downtown
Can
Caracas.
we hear from
while maintaining
Can we hear
the
from
element of
General
tactical surprise.
Dave's Hot Chicken?
failure of one component of this well-oiled machine
Okay.
would have.
See, I
America's
hate
joy.
skipping ahead because I imagine that they might give you meaningful information, but this is just going to be like military
Where he
glaze.
lived, pets.
A rum
In
glaze
early
'cause,
December,
Heggs
our
at this
force
year.
was choosing the right day to minimize the potential for civilian harm. Indicted. And as the president said earlier today, weather in Venezuela is always a factor this time of the year. And over the weeks through Christmas and New Year's, the men and women of the United States military sat ready, patiently waiting for the right triggers to be met and the president to order us into action.
Like a thief in the night.
Mountain. Over the course of the night, aircraft began launching from 20 different bases on land and sea across the Western Hemisphere. In total, more than 150 aircraft, bombers, fighters, intelligence, reconnaissance, surveillance, rotary wing were in the air last night. Thousands and thousands of hours of experience were airborne. Our youngest crew member was 20, and our oldest crew member was 49. And they're
Okay, I don't give a shit about like the learn about our organization page for the mission. Was this all done to just like again arrest Maduro? I guess no, it's all being done to occupy Venezuela. But like, shouldn't some of those people have stayed on the ground? And I guess the special forces are still there.
Extraction force, which includes above the water. As they approached Venezuelan shores, the United States began layering different effects provided by Spacecom, Cybercom, and other members of the interagency to create a pathway. Overhead, those forces were protected by aircraft from the United States Marines, the United States Navy, the United States Air Force.
This is just to remind you that the American military is really strong, to distract you from the fact that everything else about America is incredibly weak now because of not because of how strong our military is, but in service of the billionaires who own our military, right? And so this is all just, theater. This is part of the theater to remind people like, oh, yes, we have a huge military. We're not running back to pick on South America because we're being like beaten in any warfare that we engage with with a sufficiently powerful force that's too far from us. This is us just, showing you who runs things. It's so transparently, again, in service of protecting this waning specter of American military might. But I don't think they realize that it's obvious that it comes across this way. Like, China doesn't see this and go like, we're shaking in our boots because look how powerful they are. They go, yeah, isn't it interesting how this happened right after we went to go talk to them and right after we did our own military exercises? It just looks desperate because it is desperate. And it's also like disgusting for other reasons.
To ensure the safe passage.
Thank you, FT Jan. I'm going to just keep skipping ahead. This is boring. Thank you, FT Jan, for the $4.99 super chat. Thank you, General Kane, Colonel Sanders, Secretary Ward Daniels, and Staff Sergeant Wendy. You forgot to thank Admiral Crunch, the man who runs the Gerald R. Ford.
Clutter. We assessed that we had maintained totally the element of surprise.
Okay.
Time, of course, and came home. And that aircraft remained flyable during the rest of the mission.
Okay.
As the operation unfolded at the compound, our air and ground intelligence teams provided real-time updates to the ground force, ensuring those forces could safely navigate the
I keep thinking he's going to give like real interesting information, like he's going to explain something interesting or important, and it just becomes like, yeah, and then when we were flying, our radar system ensured that we could see things. It's like, okay, yeah, you don't need to explain every single step of this process.
Complex environment without unnecessary
That's what makes
risk.
it clear that this is for
force
like, for show. I mean, obviously it's a theater, it's a
tactical
performance,
aviation.
but like what that is.
Maduro and his wife, both indicted, gave up and were taken into custody by the Department of Justice, assisted by our incredible U.S. military with professionalism and precision, with no loss of U.S. life.
They're trying to make it seem more impressive than it is, right? Because they just abducted people. They just abducted people in the night. And now they're threatening to expand the war campaign because they want to control the country.
I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to the brave men.
Okay, boring.
Play big boy. And so now, he's got other sets of problems on his hands.
Oh
And
God!
to choose-
Oh God! Now Rubio's going to do his bit.
And this is something that was a direct threat to the national interest of the United States, and the president addressed it. There's a president of peace, by the way. I told you what I just said earlier. This guy,
He does this like, I don't know, like My Cousin Vinny, he gets like really into this kind. I don't know, like, do you guys like this when he does it? Agnostic of all like the war crimes, like I just don't like this bit when Rubio does it. It's stupid. I think it's a little dumb.
multiple opportunities to find his
Caveman
way
says he
somewhere
likes
else
this
and
bit.
figure out
I don't
another.
know
He could
about
have
that.
been living somewhere else right now, very happy, but instead he wanted to play big boy. And
Yeah,
so
like,
now,
this-
he's got other sets of problems on his hands. And but I think the message here should
Like,
be
yeah, Marco Rubio is not tough. Marco Rubio is not tough. Like, Republicans love to act tough. Most Republicans are like softer than a cotton ball. Like, and Marco Rubio is a good example of that. Marco Rubio is not tough.
for the world. Look, the president doesn't go out looking for people to pick fights with. He's not.
Yes, he does. He's a
generally
bully.
Wants to get along with everybody. Well, talk and meet with anybody.
Tell me another one. Tell me another one, Marco Rubio. Tell me about how Trump doesn't like young girls next.
Fights with. He's not. Generally wants to get along with everybody.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
talk and meet with anybody, but don't play games. Don't play games with this president's in office because it's not going to turn out well.
Oh my God! What? Yeah, like little Marco is really leaning into like the consigliere role. Like I don't watch enough of the Godfather movies, but like, is there not just like a simpering like under lieutenant to like the mob boss who's like, yeah, you don't want to mess with the Godfather. Like he's really laying it on thick. This is so desperate. This is cringe. He's cringe maxing, bro.
Last night, and we hope.
Can we have our war crimes without the side of cringe? Can we get our war crimes without the side of like just jester maxing, please?
Moving forward.
Is that a message for Cuba? Mr. President.
Oh, we're gonna invade Cuba next.
Mr. President.
You said that the U.S. is going to run Venezuela.
Yes,
so
thank
who's
you.
in power right now?
Well, we're going to be running it with a group, and we're going to make sure it's run properly. We're going to
Okay, yeah. So like, let's back up a second because this is the part that matters. She just asked. You said the U.S. is going to be running Venezuela. What does that mean, more or less? And I want to see how specific this answer is, as opposed to how vague this answer is.
Mr. President, you said that the U.S. is going to run Venezuela. So who's in power right now?
Who's in power right
We're going
now?
to be running it with a group, and we're going to make sure it's run properly. We're going to rebuild the oil infrastructure, which will cost
Halliburton's
billions
in
of
charge.
dollars. It'll be paid for by the oil companies directly. They will be reimbursed for what they're doing, but it's going to be paid. And we're going to get the oil flowing the way it should be. As you know, it was just a minor flow. It was actually a minor flow for what they have. But we're going to run it properly, and we're going to make sure the people of Venezuela are taken care of. We're going to make sure the people that were forced out of Venezuela by this thug are also taken care of.
Mr. President.
It doesn't really answer the question.
Mr. President.
President, does the U.S. running the country mean that U.S. troops will be on the ground?
Another
How will
good
that
question.
Well, they always say boots on the ground. Oh, so we're not afraid of boots on the ground if we have to have. We had boots on the ground last night at a very high level, actually. We're not
Yeah,
afraid.
but so like, there's a difference between leading a kidnapping campaign to abduct the president of the country, no matter how difficult that would be, and like maintaining a military-sized military presence the size necessary to control the entire country of Venezuela, which would also necessitate putting down citizens. You'd have to kill Venezuelan citizens based on what we're seeing already in order to maintain that power because they were told to take to the streets. And so I mean, are we just going to have a brutal colonial regime in Venezuela right now? Like, is it just like that?
Of it. We don't mind saying it.
Because right now it just seems like we're threatening them, hoping that we don't have to do that because of how bad it would be. It'd be really bad. Americans would definitely die doing that for sure. And it would be necessary to do in order to maintain the kind of control he seems to be saying. And so we're hoping that if we threaten them with that, they'll just give up control of the country. The Maduro administration and the allies will give up the country to the American sympathizers, to that Machado lady.
But we're going to make sure that that country is run properly. We're not doing this in vain. This is a very dangerous attack. This is an attack that could have gone very, very badly. We could have lost a lot of people last night. We could have lost a lot of dignity. We could have lost a lot of equipment. The equipment
We definitely
is
lost a
less
lot of
important,
dignity.
But we could have lost a lot. And we're going to make sure that this is proper.
They have his mic
We're there
purposely
now.
low so you don't hear how terrible
We're ready
he
to go
sounds.
again if we have to. We're going to run the country right. It's going to be run very judiciously, very fairly. It's going to make a lot of money. We're going to give money to the people. We're going to reimburse people that were taken advantage of. We're going to take care of everybody.
I mean, you cannot count out the possibility that America is willing, and of course you can't count this possibility, to just execute massacres in order to keep this country under control. We're doing that right now in Gaza against Palestinians, because that is an American genocide that's happening right now. Obviously it's in the form of Israel, but that is an American project, an American-led, an American-supported, an American-facilitated project. So America's not above just committing massacres on like the domestic population of a region to keep them under control.
It's very important. We couldn't let them get away with it. They stole our oil. We built that whole industry there, and they just took it over like we were nothing. And we had a president that decided not to do anything about it. So we did something about it. We're late, but we did something about it. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, can you explain the exact mechanism by which you're going to run the country?
Yes.
Are you going to designate a U.S. official to coordinate?
It's
Can you
all
just
being
unpack that?
being done right now. We're designating people. We're talking to
Who
people. We're
specifically?
designating various people, and we're going to let you know who those people are.
Mr. President.
Yeah, I don't. That does not really engender a sense of confidence in me, and not in the sense that like, they are taking over this country and they're going to put like a puppet in charge. But it doesn't seem like they even understand like how they're going to do that yet. I don't know what they thought was going to happen, but it seems as though like the next step is like the question mark step. And it really depends on how the, I guess, Maduro administration like reacts to all of this. And if they're willing to all just like stand down, then yeah, they'll just put a puppet in place. And if not, they might commit massacres.
You mentioned that would run Venezuela.
I shouldn't say might. They definitely will commit massacres.
For a period of time, the people that are standing right behind me, we're going to be running it. We're going to be bringing it back. It's a dead. I talk about a dead country. A year and a half ago, we were a dead country. Now we're the hottest country
Now
anywhere
we're
in the
undead.
world.
We're lich-like.
A country doing
We're
better than any
zombified.
country anywhere in the world, and it required leadership. Venezuela has a lot of bad people in there. A lot of bad people that shouldn't be leading.
Yeah, this is less neo-colonialism and neo-imperialism, and much more like old school colonialism and old school imperialism, where it's like, no, we just occupy. We send our military there and we occupy the country. We don't do it through like soft power coups. We don't do it through like the total extraction of wealth through like a debt-based economy using the IMF or like really, really like sweetheart deals for oil companies. We just send our military there and we like occupy the country. And yeah, maybe we establish like a colonial government, but like it's through like overt military might.
We're not going to take a chance that one of those people take over for Maduro. So you can look at, and others, we have fantastic people, including people in the military. So we're going to have a group of people running it until such time as it can be put back on track, make a lot of money for the people, and give people a great way of life, and also reimbursement for people in our country that were forced out of Venezuela.
Mr. President.
Rubio would be.
You said earlier today that you weren't going to back Machado to come back and be the opposition leader in your Fox and Friends interview. And then you also mentioned the vice president of Venezuela. Are you going to work with the vice president of Venezuela, or how do you foresee the relationship
Well, I
going?
understand she was just sworn in, but she was, as you know, picked by Maduro. So Marco's working on that directly. He just had a conversation with her, and she's essentially willing to do what we think is necessary to make Venezuela great again. Very simple.
Every other country but America.
President, Colombian President Gustavo Petro.
Let's go back to that, because that addressed the Venezuelan opposition leader directly. So I want people to sit with that.
So we're going to have a group of bad people in there, a lot of bad people. We're going to be talking to people. We're designating various people, and we're going to let you know who those people are.
Mr. President.
What's the group you mentioned that would run Venezuela?
Well, it's largely going to be, for a period of time, the people that are standing right behind me. We're going to be running it. We're going to be bringing it back. It's a dead. I talk about a dead country.
Yeah, it's just
a year and a half
out
ago, we were a
overt
dead
American
country.
imperialism. Marco Rubio
the hottest country
Marco
anywhere.
Rubio is the new like colonial overlord. I forget what they used to call it in like India when they would send like a governor. I guess that's like he's the new governor of like Venezuela.
In the world, we're a country doing better than any country anywhere.
He's
in the
new
world.
viceroy.
And it required leadership. Venezuela has a lot of bad people in there, a lot of bad people that shouldn't be leading. We're not going to take a chance that one of those people take over for Maduro. So you can look at, and others, we have fantastic people, including people in the military. So we're going to have a group of people running it until such time as it can be put back on track, make a lot of money for the people. And
Yeah, they're I think surprised. They're surprised by this particular turn of events because I think like most people felt it was just going to be a Juan Guaido situation, which is what this follow-up question is probably, trying to touch on. Like it was just, we go in, we snatch up, we kill Maduro, he's put in Venezuelan prison, and suddenly like they have a new leadership, and it seems like it's all hands off. It's all them.
People a great way of life, and also reimbursement for people in our country that were forced out of Venezuela.
Mr. President,
Rubio would be.
You said earlier today that you weren't going to back Machado to come back and be the opposition leader in your Fox and Friends interview. And then you also mentioned the vice president of Venezuela. Are you going to work with the vice president of Venezuela, or how do you foresee the relationship
Well, I
going?
understand she was just sworn in, but she was, as you know, picked by Maduro.
So the vice president was just sworn in, what she's saying. Because they still have a functional government. So that's what is going on now. We're threatening those people to make Marco Rubio, the governor of Venezuela.
So Marco's working on that directly. He just had a conversation with her.
Yeah, so like
And
Marco
she just
Rubio
said-
just spoke with the vice president, not Machado.
Actually willing to do what we think is necessary to make Venezuela great again. Very simple.
Mr. President, Colombian President Gustavo Petro, a couple weeks ago, he said he's got to watch his ass. And today, he said he's not concerned about anything happening to him in the aftermath of this operation. So, just what your message is
Well,
about
he
that.
has cocaine mills. He has factories where he makes cocaine. And
I know because my son Donald Trump Jr. Loves those factories.
I think I stick by my first statement. He's making cocaine. They're sending it into the United States. So he does have to watch his ass.
I don't know if the VP of Venezuela was part of the operation. We heard her speak, Delcy Rodriguez, but certainly Delcy. We heard her speak about demanding a proof of life of Maduro in his wife. Perhaps that's what got her on the phone with Marco Rubio. But if she's been sworn as the president, I would imagine that they're threatening her if she's not already in the bag for them. And I'm not trying to say she is, but if she's not, they're probably threatening her with the full land invasion of Venezuela. They're threatening the people of Venezuela to get her to step down.
Mr. President, did you notify any members of Congress in advance?
Marco, do you want to talk about that? Because you were involved.
Sure. We call members of Congress immediately after. This was not the kind of mission that you can do congressional notification on. It was
It's illegal, so no. But obviously, it wouldn't have mattered even if we did tell them. It would have been illegal.
So it's just simply not the kind of mission you can call people and say, hey, we may do this at some point in the next 15 days. But it's largely a law enforcement function. Remember, at the end of the day, at its core, this was an arrest of 2 indicted fugitives of American justice, and the Department of War supported the Department of Justice in that job. Now, there are broader policy implications here, but it's just not the kind of mission that you can pre-notify because it endangers
it's
the mission.
the limited policing operation.
Also, if I can add one thing to that, Congress has a tendency to leak. This would not be good.
Oh, yeah,
If they
Congress
leaked,
has a tendency
I think
to
it would have
leak.
been maybe a very different result. But I have to say, they knew we were
Congress probably, if they told people in Congress, some of them probably would have leaked to prevent it, or tried to leak to prevent it, or had to leak to prevent it.
coming at some point. A lot of ships out there. They sort of knew we were coming.
Mr. President.
But Congress will leak, and we don't want leakage.
Mr. President.
Except for Pete, right?
One of the only people to watch this all play out live. What was Maduro doing when the U.S. forces entered what I assume would be his home? And also, was there any point where the U.S. was considering if Maduro pushed back or resisted killing Maduro?
It could have happened. It could have happened. He was trying to get into a safe place. You know what a safe place is? All steel.
Panic room?
And he wasn't able to make it to the door because our guys were so fast. They went through the opposition so fast. And there was a lot of opposition. People were wondering, do we get them by surprise? Sort of surprised, but they were waiting for something. It was a lot of opposition. There was a lot of gunfire. You saw some of it today. But he was trying to get to a safe place, which wasn't safe because we would have had the door blown up in about 47 seconds, they say on average. regardless of how thick the seal was. It was a very thick door. It was a very heavy door, but he was unable to get to that door. He made it to the door. He was unable to close it.
So where's Maduro going?
I mean, it's so disgusting, and I just hate and by our I mean the U.S. press corps, because like they salivate at things like this because they support it. I mean, obviously people will justify it. Like they have to ask these questions, and I'm glad they're asking some of them, but you can tell that there's, no real pushback from these voices. Not that they would ever think to be pushback. They wouldn't be hired if they were going to push back.
Go ahead, finish.
Where is Maduro going to be in the time being right now? Do you know his exact location?
Keeping him in my old best friend Jeffrey Epstein's cell.
In the near future, he's going to be brought to New York.
And where is he going to be held? Where is he going to be held in New York? Do you know?
That's going to be up to the officials that do these things.
Mr. President, the U.S. has something of a mixed track record of ousting dictators without necessarily a plan for what comes afterwards. Did that weigh on your decision
making? Well, that's why we had
making?
different presidents, but with me, that's not true. With me, we've had a perfect track record of winning. We win a lot, and we win. If you look at Soleimani,
That question was an example of what I
al-Baghdadi,
mean.
You look at the Midnight Hammer. Midnight Hammer was incredible. Right now, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. We have essentially peace in the Middle East because of that. If we weren't successful with Midnight Hammer, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. So, with me, you've had a lot of victory. You've had only victories. You've had no losses. Yeah.
No losses.
How long do you expect the U.S. to run Venezuela, and how soon do you want the Venezuelan people to hold elections?
So I'd like to do it quickly, but it takes a period of time. We're rebuilding. We have to rebuild their whole infrastructure. The infrastructure is rotted. It's actually very dangerous. It's blow-up territory. Oil is very dangerous. It's a very dangerous thing to take out of the ground. It can kill a lot of people. It has killed a lot of people doing just that. The infrastructure is old. It's rotted. Much of it is stuff that we put there 25 years ago, and we're going to be replacing it. And we're going to take a lot of money out so that we can take care of the country.
Are you saying that Secretary Rubio and
Mr. President, China, Russia, and Iran have interests in Venezuela. How does this operation affect your relationships with them when it comes to the oil
in terms of
and
China
drugs?
and Russia, Russia when we get things straightened out. But in terms of other countries that want oil, we're in the oil business. We're going to sell it to them. We're not going to say we're not going to.
Wow.
We'll be selling oil, probably in much larger doses because they couldn't produce very much because their infrastructure was so bad.
It's just,
so we'll be selling
so
large
naked.
amounts of oil to other countries, many of whom are using it now, but I would say many more will come.
Are you saying that, Mr. President, are you saying that?
Mr. President, thank you. What is your message to the people of Venezuela today? Of course, the civilian population specifically, they have a lot of questions. What is your message to the people of Venezuela?
That you're going to have peace, justice. You're going to have some of the riches that you should have had for a long period of time. It was stolen from you. But you're going to have peace and you're going to have safety. You're going to have justice. You're going to have a country. You're going to have a real country. You're going to have potentially a great country. You know, if you go back 20 years, maybe even a little longer ago, that was a great country. And they destroyed it. Remember I said that if we lose this election, the United States will be Venezuela on steroids. That's what would have happened. Had we lost the election, the 2024 election, we suffered so badly. When you look at the border from 2020, what they did, what Joe Biden administration did to our country should never be forgotten. But if we had to go through another year of that, we would be exactly where Venezuela was in terms I used to say, if they win, we're going to be Venezuela on steroids, and that's what would have happened.
President, thank you. Are you saying that Secretary Hegseth and Rubio are going to be running Venezuela, and will you be sending in U.S. military
They're
troops
going to
to
be a
provide?
team that's working with the people of Venezuela to make sure that we have Venezuela right. Because for us to just leave, who's going to take over? I mean, there is nobody to take over. You have a vice president who's been appointed by Maduro. And right now she's the vice president, and she's, I guess, the president. She was sworn as president just a little while ago. She had a long conversation with Marco, and she said, we'll do whatever you need. I think she was quite gracious, but she really doesn't have a choice. We're going to have this done right. We're not going to just do this with Maduro, then leave like everybody else, leave and say, let it go to hell.
This
if
is
we
so
just
sickening.
left, it has zero chance of ever coming back. We'll run it properly. We'll run it professionally. We'll have the greatest oil companies in the world go in and invest billions and billions of dollars and take out money, use that money in Venezuela. And the biggest beneficiary are going to be the people of Venezuela. And also, I can't stress this strongly enough, the people that got thrown out of Venezuela that are now in the United States, and frankly, some want to stay and some probably want to go back. Yeah.
So, Mr. President, what's being done to protect Americans in the country, and were any of the detained Americans
Well, right now they're
arrested
very
last
protected
night?
because nobody's going to mess with us. They're very protected. The people of, and we let them know that you better not touch one of them.
Are you concerned that bad elements of the Maduro regime will remain in place?
Well, we know who they are. We're on them, and they're acting much differently now than they would have acted 2 days ago.
And what can you
okay,
say
wait,
about
behind you, please.
Mr. President, why is running a country in South America America first?
Well, I think it is because we want to surround ourselves with good neighbors. We want to surround ourselves with stability. We want to surround ourselves with energy. We have tremendous energy in that country. It's very important that we protect it. We need that for ourselves. We need that for the world. And we want to make sure we can protect it.
Mr. President, on oil?
Yes, sir. Please, go ahead.
Yeah, is there a message here for Cuba and Diaz-Canel?
Well, Cuba's an interesting case. Cuba is, not doing very well right now. That system has not been a very good one for Cuba. The people there have suffered for many, many years. And I think Cuba is going to be something we'll end up talking about because Cuba is a failing nation right now, very badly failing nation. And we want to help the people. It's very similar in the sense that we want to help the people in Cuba, but we want to also help the people that were forced out of Cuba and living in this country. Do you want to say something about that, Marco, please?
Well, I mean, I just gave you a statement a few minutes ago about, when the president speaks, you should take him seriously. So suffice it to say, Cuba is a disaster. It's run by incompetent, senile men, and in some cases, not senile but incompetent.
Bro, projection. he had to pause there when he said it because he knows. He had to pause there. I really don't like this new Marco Rubio super mobster Italian bit that he does now.
Suffice it to say,
maybe he always did it. I don't remember him acting like this.
It's run by incompetent, senile men.
That pause was so pregnant. That was crazy. That was at least 2 seconds.
A few minutes ago about when the president speaks, you should take him seriously. So suffice it to say, Cuba is a disaster. It's run by incompetent, senile men.
Yeah.
In some cases, not senile but incompetent nonetheless. It has no economy. It's in total collapse. And by the way, they were all of the guards that helped protect Maduro. This is well known. Their whole spy agency, all that were full of Cubans. I mean, it's amazing. This poor island took over Venezuela in some cases. One of the biggest problems the Venezuelans have is they have to declare independence from Cuba. They tried to
Cuba's colonizing Venezuela right now.
Yeah, look, if I lived in Havana and I was in the government, I'd be concerned, at least a little bit.
Are you cutting off the oil flow to Cuba from Venezuela?
Well, the president already announced a week ago that anything that's sanctioned, it's sanctioned oil, it's not going to be allowed to get there. So that's an
The answer is yes.
Mr. President,
Is the U.S. aware of the location of opposition leader Machado, and have you been in contact with her?
No, we haven't.
Mr. President, on Monday.
Oh, I think it would be very tough for her to be the leader. She doesn't have the support within or the respect within the country. She's a very nice woman, but she doesn't have the respect.
Oh yeah, he's mad as hell about the fact that she won that Nobel Peace Prize over her. She should have known that she was not going to be allowed to have a place in this leadership after she took that award from him. She should have given that award to him.
It won't cost us anything because the money coming out of the ground is very substantial, so it's not going to cost us anything.
So the U.S. isn't going to dedicate money to...
Well, we want safety there.
It's not going to cost us anything to occupy Cuba because we're going to pay for it with the oil that we steal from them. This is wild. This is normal in the sense that this is what the United States does and has done, and it's also what Europe does and has done for the past few hundred years at the very least. But it hasn't been this nakedly done. except for in the case of Israel's genocide, of course, United States genocide of the Palestinians in Gaza, it hasn't been so nakedly done in a while, which I think is what is like going to be so distasteful for people. It's maybe even why Marco Rubio is doing this like little like feet shuffling act behind him. It's so nakedly like classic colonialism that like I think people are going to really just try not to engage with what he's saying. They're going to do that. We support a peaceful transition and all of that other like shucking and jiving that people like to do. But they'll pretend like he didn't say all of this stuff, even though he's being very nakedly honest. Because it's all, everyone's been honest about it this time. But the media and the allies in Europe and all of the people who still have to manufacture consent for this sort of thing, pretending as though it's based in some sort of liberal rules-based order, they just ignore all of the stuff that he says. Or when, like I said, when Susie Wiles says, we're doing this because of regime change, they talk about like, oh, she's going to get in trouble for like saying something that's against what the official statement is. And it's like, how about we talk about the discrepancy between the official statement and what she said, and which seems more likely given what we've seen and what the history of the United States is? Or are we just going to focus on that it's not what, it's not what we want the narrative to be? And so despite the fact that he's being very naked about this, a lot of people who cover it will pretend as though this was never said. This stuff he didn't say all of this stuff about the oil, about occupying. Like, you misheard him, you interpreted him wrong, because it's very unpopular. It's very gross.
Surrounded by countries that aren't housing all of our enemies all over the world. That's what was happening, and you don't want to have that. But we're going to be rebuilding, and we're not spending money. The oil companies are going to go in. They're going to spend money. We're going to take back the oil that, frankly, we should have taken back a long time ago. A lot of money is coming out of the ground. We're going to get reimbursed for all of that. We're going to get reimbursed for everything that we spend. So it's going to be a very important. This is a very big evening that took place last night. We have to be surrounded by safe, secure countries, and we also have to have energy.
Those Chinese people.
Very important. We have to have energy that's real energy, not where they're getting 4%.
Yeah, this stopped being about oil half an hour ago, but you have to understand that the history of national security, which is what he is talking about, which they've been saying for a while, like the history of national security as a justification for this sort of thing is just like, it's deeply intertwined. The phrase national security is in many ways rooted in the rise of colonialism that took place in the early 20th century to collect oil reserves from places in the Middle East. That was one of the first times people started really hearing national security as a justification for going to war, occupying other countries, like colonialism, imperialism. And so the idea of national security has always been very deeply rooted with the piracy of other countries' natural resources. It's just, again, very nakedly the case now with what he's doing.
And 5% of the energy out of the ground. You take a look, it was such a disaster. So what's going to happen with Venezuela, I think, over the next period of a year is going to be a great thing. And the people of Venezuela will be the biggest beneficiaries.
Mr. President. And of course, I mean, it goes without saying, this is going to be one of the things that really cost the Republicans in the midterm elections. Now, the Democrats won't do anything with that because I can only imagine that the United States under Donald Trump is going to be in a quagmire in Venezuela. What that quagmire will look like, I guess we'll find out over the next 48 hours. Really depends on what happens with the Maduro administration, which is still in power. What happens with the people who are taking to the streets in his name, like, because the United States is not above a massacre at this point. They have said that they're not going to have this go in vain. So they might just start massacring people if they don't step down and say like, oh, it was soldiers, it was Maduro, it was the cartels. And yeah, a decent number of Americans will pretend that's the truth. And like I said, because a lot of the American media and the Western media is in support of this neoconservative agenda, they'll just ignore it the same way that they were ignoring the massacres in Gaza until they became unable to be ignored. And even now, they still ignore them mostly because they don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. They don't want to throw out the unreserved right of Western powers to go into countries and dictate how they elect leaders, dictate what laws are followed, but still maintain for themselves this air of like, well, yeah, but we're like the civilized people. That's part of what gives us the right, not just the military might. It's not the military might that like they draw legitimacy from when Western countries go into these places. It's some higher moral thing that they represent. Sometimes it's Christianity, but it hasn't been Christianity in a long time, at least not explicitly. It's the, Western liberal rules-based order now. That's the moral code that gives Western powers the right to do stuff like this, right? And that's being thrown out. And so now it's just become naked colonialism again.
U.S. military.
Mr. President, thank you. What did you last speak to Maduro about when you spoke? And is the
Well,
US
I don't want to
at
get
war
into
with
the
Venezuela?
conversations, but I did have conversations with him, and I said, you got to surrender. And I actually thought he was pretty close to doing so, but now he wished he did, yeah.
Mr. President, can you explain, you said that Maduro is responsible for drug trafficking.
I mean, like, how would surrendering have been any different? He still would have been, like, abducted by the United States and put in, like, a kangaroo court. Surrendering would have only saved you money, I guess, and whoever you killed to get to him.
Recently pardoned the former president of Honduras who was convicted on many drug trafficking. Can you explain how these two situations are different? And would you ever pardon Maduro?
I endorsed, as you know, the winning president, the man who won in Honduras. I endorsed the man who won in Chile. I endorsed the man who won in Argentina.
I only pick winners.
We are doing very well with that whole group. What the man that I pardoned was, if you could equate it to us, he was treated like the Biden administration treated a man named Trump.
I mean, I don't know if you guys heard, because I was talking kind of over it, and it's also really, really low. But he's asking Trump that if they care so much about drugs, how come he pardoned that Honduran drug cartel kingpin just the other day? And this is like the Trump excuse.
Chile, I endorsed the
He's
man
like
who
me
won
and
in
Biden.
Argentina, and we are doing very well with that whole group. What the man that I pardoned was, if you could equate it to us, he was treated like the Biden administration treated a man named Trump. That didn't work out too well for them. This was a
So he
man
was guilty.
who was persecuted very unfairly. He was the head of the country. He was persecuted very unfairly. And there are a number of them. And we felt that it was a very unfair situation that happened to him. He's also a party member of the man who won. So obviously the people liked what I did. And one of the reasons that was done is because of the fact that the party in power felt very strongly that that man was treated very badly. I studied it very quickly, and then I studied it in great detail. I went to a lot of the people standing behind me, and they felt that that man was persecuted and treated very badly. That's why
It's just so nakedly criminal. It's like, it's, jaw-dropping. It's jaw-dropping sometimes, just how nakedly criminal the United States has become.
Button this up. Do you envision the U.S. military having a presence in Venezuela as the U.S. runs that country?
No, we're going to have a presence in Venezuela as it pertains to oil, because we have to have, we're sending our expertise.
So we're only going to be occupying the oil fields.
So you may need something, not very much. But no, we're going to be taking out a tremendous amount of wealth out of the ground.
I mean, this is going to be one of those speeches that if we're forced to like occupy Venezuela, because we removed Maduro because he wasn't going to give up the country to a puppet leader willingly. And so now we're trying to make that deal with his vice president. Like, are you going to make us kidnap you too and put the next person in charge, or just do a full land invasion? Or are you going to give up your country to a puppet leader like willingly? Because we will just, start massacring civilians, and then we'll tell the media, the New York Times, the CNNs, we'll tell them that you made us do it, or that they weren't actually civilians, and they'll kind of believe us for a pretty good amount of time, and then maybe a year later they'll say that turns out they were civilians, and Wolf Blitzer will look kind of really sad or something, and people will go like, well, let's turn to the next panel and who's on it this time. And so, in that framework, it does seem as though, they have a lot of, power to, kind of demand whatever they want. But a lot of that is because they really don't want to do another Iraq, probably. They don't want to do another, decades-long occupation. They just want total control over the natural resources of the country. And so, what the quagmire looks like will depend on, how willing, I guess, the vice president is to play ball with that. Or if she's going to be like, no, you got to kidnap me, too. You gotta kidnap me too, and then I guess that's when they'll either kidnap her or do a ground invasion, which will be a disaster politically for the United States of America. Not that that necessarily matters, but it will be a disaster politically, both domestically. Our foreign policy will, goals will suffer. A lot of bad things can happen as a result of what the next 48 hours looks like. We just don't know yet, right? But like the undoubtedly there will be Americans on the ground at some capacity, soldiers or not, to protect the oil interests.
But no, we're going to be taking out a tremendous amount of wealth out of the ground, and that wealth is going to the people of Venezuela and people from outside of Venezuela that used to be in Venezuela.
Is Exxon Venezuelan?
And it goes also to the United States of America in the form of reimbursement for the damages caused us by that country. So I want to thank you all very much. Thank you. Do you have one? Yes, please. You were so nice before. I'm going to give you the final question. Go
Thank
ahead.
you, Mr.
Unless it's a
Final
bad
question.
In
It's
which
about
case I'll
Putin.
go one more. It's about who?
It's about Putin, if you want.
About Putin.
Okay.
My best
You had a
friend.
phone-
Nah, Jeffrey Epstein's dead.
You had a phone call with him on Monday. Did he talk at all about Maduro? Did y'all talk about this?
No, we didn't.
And
We
then-
never spoke about Maduro.
Are you mad at him right now? I mean, there's this
I'm not
intelligence.
thrilled with Putin. I'm not thrilled with Putin. He's killing too many people.
There was that
I
intelligence.
thought that would be so. I settled 8 1/4.
Do you think that he's going to brag about his imperialist project being more successful now than Putin's in Ukraine? Do you think he's about to brag and go like, we were more successful in destabilizing this country and getting our goals accomplished than Putin was? I feel like that's what he's about to happen.
So I settled 8 1/4 war. You know what the 1/4 was? Thailand and Cambodia. I did it again. They
Did it
broke
again,
out,
folks.
And I did it in about 5 hours, and I settled it. I'm giving myself 1/4, so I'm up to now 8 1/4. In other words, I settled the war, but then they broke out. They had a pretty bad breakout over the last 4 days. I got them to go back to peace, so I only give 1/4. I thought the easiest one would be, one of the easier ones would be Russia, Ukraine. It's not, and they both have done some pretty bad things.
Both sides are bad, folks.
That's Biden's war. That's not my war. But I want to stop the lies. Did you see the last month? 30,000.
That's
This
Biden's
last-
war. That's
it was
not my
27.
war.
27,000 the month before.
What a fucking asshole.
30,000, mostly soldiers, were killed this last month. 30,000. I want to stop that. You know, I got NATO to pay 5% instead of the 2% that they weren't paying. They weren't paying 2, now they pay 5. And we send them a lot of munitions, we send them a lot of things, missiles and various other things, a lot. And they pay. The United States is not losing money. We're probably making money on that. It's the last thing I care about. I just want to stop all those people. We're losing 25, 30,000 human beings that come from 2 places that are very far away. But if I can stop, because it's something I've been pretty good at doing, deals, I guess. It's all a deal. Life is a big deal. But if I can stop that war and stop 30,000 young people, in addition to the fact that people
You
are
can't
being
stop
killed
thinking
in
about
Kiev,
children. It's
people
so
are being killed
disgusting.
in other cities throughout, a much smaller number, but they're being killed, viciously killed. So I'm not happy about it. I thought that would be something that would get solved. We have Mr. Witkoff here. I think that we're making progress, but that's a war that should have never happened. If I were president, it would have never happened. Putin says it. Everybody says it. If I were president, that would have never happened. But I inherited that war. That was Joe Biden, Zelensky, and Putin. I came into the situation, and it's a mess. And I will say this. I watched an operation last night that was so precise, that was so brilliant. I mean, it was incredible. If we had our people, like this general, and our people involved, that war would not have gone on very long. That I can tell you.
DEI hired
That
Raising
war, to
Cain.
use an old term, that war has become a bloodbath, and we want it to get stopped. Thank you very much.
Concerned a rogue Venezuelan general to take over the country.
Can you talk about your conversation with the vice president?
Disgusting words from a disgusting asshole.